Welcome back to the lesson 2 of the HTML and CSS master course. Today we're going to dive into the tools every beginner learning web development will need to get started. In this lesson, we're going to master Visual Studio Code with Pro extensions. We're going to explore the dev tools for debugging, and we're going to play with some code. So grab the course roadmap and the cheat sheet below to follow along. First up, let's talk about the number one text editor, Visual Studio Code, or you can call it VS Code. It is the choice for most developers because it is free, it is customizable, and it's packed with a lot of features. If you haven't installed it, you can still go to this link and download text editor. When you have downloaded it, here's VS Code. But first, let's make it your own style. You click on the Settings tab, you scroll up to Settings, click on it, and from here, you can make some adjustments based on your own style. But in general, I want you to adjust the font size of it to be 16 pixels, which is going to make the text more comfortable to be viewed. But it depends on your own style. Now, let's talk about extensions. Let's install the two most important extensions you will need as a beginner learning web development, which is Live Server and Prettier. We have installed Live Server. I really haven't gone further on what's the importance of it, but stay calm. I'm going to explain it to you in a practical way later on in the video. Next up, we need to install Prettier. Just like what we did during Live Server, we click on the extension tab and search for Prettier. You click on Prettier and install it. Prettier is a VS Code extension that arranges the code for developers. As a developer, it makes you only focus on writing the code. And for the arrangement of how the code looks in a perfect order, Prettier handles the attacks. So all you need to do now is to focus on writing the code. Arrangement, Prettier will handle that. That's what Prettier does. Here's a real tip. When I built my first portfolio, Prettier saved me hours of fixing messy code. Let's create our first text in a website. Then I will show you how Live Server works in that aspect. For us to create that, we need to create a folder. A folder which is going to hold the entire website. Within that folder, this is where we're going to insert our code. So now, to do that now, we're going to go to our desktop and create a new folder. For the name of the folder, you can name it whatever you want it to be. But for me, I'm going to name it to be my first website. When you do that, you head back to the VS Code and upload that same folder you just created. To do that now, you click on the three dots up here and go to File. You scroll down and go to Add Folder to Workspace. Workspace is the entire body of the VS Code. So now, when you do that now, it's going to make this window appear. You go and click on the folder you just created and click on Add. The moment you do that, the folder is added to your VS Code. So now, what's next is to open the folder. This is our folder. Now, for every language you're going to write code on, you need to create its own file. Since we are starting with HTML file, which stands for Hypertext Markup Language. Now, how does HTML file works? But first, let's create its own file. Within the VS Code, you have access to create a HTML file. Just up here, as you can see, you just click on File, create new file, and it gives us a text box to insert a text inside. So for you to create a HTML file, for the text, you can name the file anything you want. But put this in mind, it must end with .html. Let me show you what I'm talking about. You can write my.html. You can write me.html. You can write anything.html. For me, I'm going to write index.html. When it's correct, it's going to show a HTML icon for you. Just like that, I've created a HTML file. That's the first step you take when you're going to write a code. Now, this is the body of the HTML file. This is where you're going to insert all the code of HTML. But first, before I write a normal code, let me insert just a text and show you how the text you wrote in the VS Code can reflect on the browser. Let me insert a text of just BBBBB, anything you can write. I want you to follow along on what we're working on. After every text you write, you have to save it before it can reflect on the browser. To save it, you press Ctrl S. Immediately you write a code, you make sure you save it. Because if you don't save it, it won't reflect on the browser. If you have successfully installed Live Server, within the button of the VS Code, you're going to see something like Go Live here, as you can see it here. When you click on it, this is going to alert the browser to reflect what is happening in the VS Code. It's either you do that or you click on the HTML file with right click and click on Open with Live Server. Either way, it both works. So when you do that now, you can check your default browser and you're going to see the text you just inserted in the HTML file reflect in the browser. So now I can further add more text on my VS Code and it's going to reflect in the browser, but only I have to manually refresh it. I have to manually refresh the browser before it appears. But with Live Server, you can write code and it will automatically reflect. I will show you how to do that in a second. You can write hello world, you refresh the page and it's going to appear in the browser. So this is actually how you can write code in the HTML file and this is how it reflects on the browser. You write all the code in the HTML file and the browser gives you the entire website. The next tool I'm going to show you, it's called DevTools. Stands for Developer Tools. What it does is, it gives us the opportunity to debug. Debugging, it's a programming language word. What we mean by debugging, it means we're solving errors. When you're coding, coming across errors and bugs, it's a normal thing. So for us to solve this problem, that's where we use DevTools, which is the developer tools. Now, to access that developer tools, we go on the browser we're working on. For me personally, I'm using Firefox. You right click. You scroll down to inspect. When you inspect, it shows you a page like this. Don't worry, with all the buttons here, it's going to look confusing. The main point here isn't for you to get everything here in the DevTools, but for me to introduce what the main aim of the DevTools is for. So that's the main thing I want you to get about these DevTools for now. Later on in the course, the more we move further, the more we're going to use DevTools and the more you're going to understand it. By the end of this course, you're going to have a clear understanding of how DevTools works and how you can use it with confidence. In this lesson, we installed two extensions, the Live Server extension and the Prettier extension. We created our first folder and also created a HTML file. We run our first text in the HTML file and it responded in the browser. That's our first step. We also explored the DevTools. Next up, we're going to dive into the HTML fundamentals, which is the module 2. So stay on track using your roadmap. See you there.